there, and welcome to another episode of the Heart to Beat podcast. I'm your host, Felicia Prasad, and today I'm flying the Jamaican flag colors. That's because I'm talking to another island innovator, this time who was born on the island of Jamaica, and we're talking about the business of sports. He is none other than my very good friend, Irwine Clare, OD, who is the founder of Team Jamaica Bickle, and that organization is celebrating 30 years on in the business of sports. Stay tuned for this inspirational conversation. Welcome back to the Heart to Beat podcast. As I said, we're joined by one of my very good friends on this Island Innovators series. He's none other than Mr. Irwine Clare, OD, and he is the founder and chairman emeritus of Team Jamaica Bickle. And that is just a pioneering organization here in the Caribbean diaspora. Mr. Clare, welcome to the Hard to Beat podcast. I can't believe it's been 30 years since Team Jamaica Bickle was founded. So take us back to that time. Where did that idea, how was it birthed?
Well, first of all, let me say thank you for having me on behalf of the team. It's kind of like an upside down situation because 30 years ago, what you see on my face here was actually on my head. Vice versa. So I don't know if that is progress, but it has been 30 years of a labor of love. And I say that because our objective initially was about the welfare of our athletes. It is still the welfare of our athletes. And I coined something else now, Felicia, and that is the welfare of the athletes is the business of sports. The business of sports is the welfare of athletes. The journey has been a fantastic one. It has allowed, from a personal perspective, myself to work with some wonderful people. And I speak of the wonderful people, not just the volunteers that are very important, but the 12 to 13,000 students who would have passed through our largesse. And making that possible has been a kind of a combination of corporate sponsors and, very importantly, the average person on the street and mom and pop stores and folks who understand what we're all about. Because when we first started, they didn't take us seriously. What is this Bickle thing? What are you guys working on? But we did not envision ourselves here. But what we have done over the years is that we've managed to raise the bar. And it's not just a Jamaican thing. It's a Caribbean combination of islands under the tent. Food. Absolutely. And taking care of our athletes, our ambassadors.
So Irwine, take us back to that. Where was the genesis of this idea? How did you come up with this idea?
Back in the day, a couple of things here. The Jamaica Progress League, one of Jamaica's oldest organization in the United States, hosted our athletes at the end of Penn Relays. Back then, I happened to be the national chairperson, national president. And, I remember we met in Farquharson Hall down there in Philadelphia, this grand old setup of food. I remember the whole setup from the Elizabethan times when you'd have all these food just on tables, and the kids would come in all, and I remembered one of the pioneer schools at Penn, St. Technical principal said to me, Mr. Francis, he said, Irwine, this is all great, but it'd be better if we had the food during the events. At the same time, I was working with a group of fellows from the Jamaica College Alumni Association, my good friends. And we were on another project down there, which you might recall. We were trying to emulate, not trying to, but we had an emulation of Team Jamaica Bickle, not Team Jamaica Bickle, but Penn Relays journal to capsule all the teams from Jamaica who were there. And so we're pushing this magazine called Track Stars. And so we're always involved at Penn at level, so we could understand and appreciate what was really going on with the athletes. Because the athletes, nutrition was one of the challenges that they have at the time. Kids were coming up with not the necessary best of places to stay. Yes, people in the community were helping them, Felicia, to stay in their homes and all that. But as you know, those conditionalities are not necessarily the best. And so we came up with this idea, how could I get this whole situation, this apparatus during the event? And I reached out to, one of the things back then is that we were all for the revolution, and there was not a revolution that we're not a part of. But we also now recognize we had to pay for the revolution. And so I reached out to Vincent Osang from Caribbean Food Delight, who instantaneously became my partner then, and their organization still works with us to this day.
And so Team Jamaica Bickle, how did that name come about?
You know, I go back to the whole media world again, and that's why media has always been a friendly compatriot of mine. Virginia Turner was the editor of the North American Gleaner. And I remember going into her office and I said to her, we're doing this thing, and I said, it's a food thing. And all of a sudden this word Bickle came up. And, you know, I guess for lack of anything, let's call it Team Jamaica Bickle. And that was it. Food, wow. It's about food. And we have seen, you know, one of the things that over the years is as a result of what we do, and I'll go into that a little bit later, we have seen now how teams from Jamaica and the Caribbean, especially Jamaica, actually carry their chefs with them when they go overseas, and the food that their athletes are used to, because that's what we do at Penn Relays. We actually cook food. We have a 5-star restaurant set up down there, Penn, to do that in initial. And we were providing them with the necessary foods that they were used to, because they're coming up Felicia, and you know, hamburgers and hot dogs and dairy products and stuff here, just not gonna cut it for these athletes. You know, they need their stuff, you know, which is what we provide.
Okay, and so talk to us about that first year when you approached the folks at the University of Penn. How did that go? How did they go?
That's what they call hostility personified. We're like interlopers, and credit goes out to my co-founder on the Philadelphia side, Mr. Blaine Stoddard. He was an alum of University of Pennsylvania, and I remember speaking to the director of Penn Relays then, who became a very good friend. We were laughing about it just recently. And he had his head down in his book, looking at his computer. And for 45 minutes, we're there talking what we want to do. And he never once looked up at us.
Wow.
And the initial relationship actually was with the parking department of the university, not with Penn Relays. Penn Relays is a part of the parking department. I had a gentleman there who came to Jamaica once and enjoyed Jamaican white rum. So we gave him Jamaican white rum. That's why rum is so important. It's a very good catalyst. And he secured us a spot by the Levy Center adjacent to the stadium. And we set up an 8-foot GE trailer. And from that year, we served patty and cocoa bread and white rice and curry goat in the evening for dinner. And that was it. You know, we were feeding 300 athletes the first year. And you know, it just morphed into a massive tent of 100 by 140, 40 by 140 style tent that we merge into other activities such as medical, chiropractic, dental, you name it. We have nurses and doctors on hand, and anything that the athletes is required of the athlete we provide, and we build on it year by year.
Absolutely. Listen, what was that time like when it came to the university now talking to you directly and saying, okay, we're going to agree to have the Jamaican flag raised for the first time at the Penn Relays?
You know, back in 1999, there was some crises about getting our athletes to the Penn Relays. And I think Penn Relays knew all along the importance of Jamaica's presence there, but it's a hard pill to swallow when you consider that, you know, 500 athletes or so from Jamaica versus 23,000 athletes from the United States. And we were the ones, you know, making it happen. And we were able to secure the athletes coming to the Penn Relays because there were concerns as to whether or not they were coming because of, you know, riots in Jamaica, not riots in Jamaica, but the road was made impossible for the students to get to the airport. And there was concerns. And we were able to marshal that with the help of Portia Simpson Miller, then who was, I think, Minister of Sports, and the athletes came. And I remembered I stood there the morning with a former president of the Jamaica Amateur Athletic Association. And Dave Johnson came to me, it was all late, and I said, Dave, it's now high time that our flag be on the oldest stadium in the United States. He said, okay, you got it. Wow. We've been trying for years before. That was 1999. The Saturday morning, we stood there, Felicia, we looked up at the stadium. It was the smallest flag up there. But it wasn't the size that was a significance to us, because as you know, we are all been told we're little, but we're Talawa. And for the first time involved in this whole situation, tears came to my eyes, because I then realized that when you work a plan and you are just in what you do, and you bring you bring quality to the table. Those are firm foundations to build relationships. And from then, we were to then become a participating sponsor at the Penn Relays, the first Caribbean organization. No other organizations have that designation as a community group, a participating sponsor at the Penn Relays. So therefore, we're not there as interlopers or catching on the side. No, we're part of the management. We're not a part of management. We're part of what makes it happen, the experience at the Penn Relays. And in so doing, we now embrace our Caribbean brothers and sisters. We started hosting teams from St. Vincent, teams from Barbados, the Virgin Islands, to date, Trinidad, and of course, Guyana. And I must give you a joke about Guyana, because one morning when we looked at the menu for breakfast, for the first time we introduced stewed chicken on the menu for breakfast. Now, of course, when that came up, people were like, are you for real? This is what they eat? Yes. No, it so happens that Team Guyana went down to the tent first, and Team Guyana ate off all the stewed chicken that morning. But what I'm trying to say is that the athletes, it's an environment for the athletes to have this kind of social interactivity, Phil, and yet still go out in the track and compete, against each other, and still have that kind of revelry and social interaction. So it really, it's what we call our CARICOM. In action.
Definitely, Irwin. And you talk all about this. Obviously, it takes money to make this happen. What has been some of the challenges that you face financially? I mean, it's been 30 years. Obviously, there's been a lot of growth, a lot of support, but what are the challenges that you face and the challenges that still remain to keep this going every year?
One of the things we recognize is that if you're being fed lemons, you don't get discouraged. You make lemonade and set up a lemonade stand. And so we've been able to leverage our presence there. In leveraging our presence, when we go to sponsors, we're not begging or even asking. What we're doing is presenting an opportunity. Because we also had work to do. We had to grow the ethics in our brand, the respectability about our brand. Because when we step up to the plate and we have another brand with us, we're going in, it's not just any company we're going to go to. We also recognize that we are in a particular lane. And they always say, Felicia, that when you step out of your lane, bad things happen to you. You got to keep moving forward, right? And so we have fortified ourselves with the necessary integrity in the brand to have the audacity, superseding the audacity, to go out and say to our entity that, we believe that your brand fits with us, because that's what it's all about in getting sponsorship. And we also recognize too that sponsors, because we have limited amount of sponsors within our realm of the sport and the community. So we also understand about sponsorship fatigue. So we always have to be creative. And so today we find ourselves where we went back to the table again, and we have now come up with different avenues of fundraising, because we cannot depend on sponsorship. We believe that a more sustainable groundswell of support comes from those who are the consumers of what we do. And I say that the fans who comes out. So we're now more involved in fan engagement, letting them know that they need to excommunicate some funds from their back pockets into what we do. And we see that happening, that there's a significant improvement there. And that's how we've started our Labor of Love series of fundraisers that have really, taken us to the next level, coupled with our corporate sponsors.
So, Irwin, we know that the Jamaican fan base at the Penn Relays has been a very big economic boon for the University of Pennsylvania. What would you say, if you had to put a number on what Team Jamaica Bickle has contributed in 3 decades economically to Caribbean sports here in the diaspora and back in the region, what would that number look like?
All right. There has not been any factual studies done, but I can speak anecdotally and deal with a particular study that was done. For several years, we stayed in a township called Valley Forge. And so we reached out to the conventions bureau there to get a hotel. They know we're coming. In any one series of time, we have upwards of 140 rooms, nearly 1,100 room nights occupied. And I remembered one year when the city of Valley Forge participated in the Penn Relays for the first time because they were bidding for the NFL draft there in Philadelphia. And Felicia, their presentation at the Penn Relays was Valley Forge, home of Team Jamaica Bickle. That was their tagline. All right. And they gave us an assessment impact study. And they said the value of our presence in Valley Forge for those 5 days was $1.5 million.
And that is 1 year.
And that's just for accommodation there, piece here. All right. And that's for our team. You speak now about the 30 to 40,000 fans between Friday and Saturday that converges in Philadelphia. If we don't were to use that and expound it to include ticket prices, merchandise, plus anything at Penn Relays that have Jamaican colors or Caribbean colors are sold off. All right. So if you talk about food, accommodation, tolls, tickets that you get for speed on the highway, the impact on the city of Philadelphia, I would say Philadelphia, Felicia, for those 2 days in particular, Friday, Saturday, I would say it's anywhere from $8 million to $14 million minimum. And I'm just doing that anecdotally. And I juxtapose that to use the 5 days for accommodation for what, 400 or 500 athletes. And you're talking about hotels you can't get on a Friday night down in Philadelphia. So the city of Philadelphia has benefited tremendously. But the city of Philadelphia, I think, is pale in comparison to the university itself, because then they would have sold out their merchandise, their foods and stuff like that. So we have a significant impact there. And, you know, Felicia, that question now is also the conversation of angst that exists, because there are those who now will say, what is it to give back to the community? All right. So I no disrespect to the guy who sets up a pan and sell jerk chicken, or a guy who sells a t-shirt. I respect that. But in this sanitized environment, those situations cannot exist, because merchandise is subcontracted to a company. The food and drinks all have contracts. Now, here's where corporation comes in. And I say kudos to Grace Kennedy, because for several years, Grace Kennedy was a theme sponsor at the Penn Relays. That is big. You go into the University of Pennsylvania in Franklin Field, and you'd think you're at the national stadiums or high school championships. Grace all over the place, you know? And so to me, that is the penultimate. Big companies got to now look at the space that is being provided and find ways in there, from tourism departments in the Caribbean, because remember now, anywhere from 100 to 120,000 over the 3-day period passes through Penn Relays. This is the largest gathering for sports from colleges on the Northeast front. These are students who go back to the respective colleges, who 3 to 4 years from now will be going to St. Lucia, Antigua, Bahamas. Hey, so there are things to be sold, or music, or food, or culture. And at the same time, too, opportunities to invest, because over the years, Felicia, we have brought to the Philadelphia, to Penn Relays, Jamaica Stock Exchange. We're the first one to bring them up. Jampro, Jamaica Tourist Board. We say to other islands that have interest in this market, join us. But the problem with us is that we cannot approach the dragon individually and maximize on our interest or our investment. It has to be a collective approach. And that's what eludes us right now. We do not have that spirit of collaboration.
Okay. But Irwin, let's go back to the Olympic athletes, because we've seen the growth of brand Jamaica, and we can also say Team Jamaica on the world. And you go back to many of the Olympians who have passed through Team Jamaica Bickle. Tell us about some of those.
Well, the penultimate, of course, is the day Usain Bolt ran at Penn Relays. That was the day that every seat in the stadium was occupied. They say that, you know, Penn Relays is regarded as a continuous meet, meaning that it doesn't stop. There's only one thing prior to Usain Bolt that ever stopped the Penn Relays, and that was a lightning storm. Until Usain Bolt came there. When he came on the track, everything just stopped. The announcer just said, okay, Usain Bolt is here. We may as well pause, because it was just continuous applause. You know, that day, Felicia, when I look back at it, is a day that we won big. Is a day that we won as a community and lost as a community. And I tell you what, I do not believe that in hindsight, that those who were involved in getting Usain Bolt at that time to the Penn Relays, that they had business people sitting down and looking at the benefits to be garnered. The biggest winner out of that was the University of Pennsylvania. Jamaica, the Caribbean, and guys like myself, we gained nothing from that, except that we had a good time. We were fans. The economics of it was lost. So the same people who are now complaining had those opportunities. What did we do with it? Now, I say that because when we start to look at ways to extract economic reciprocity, it cannot be that we should be expecting that Penn is going to sponsor a team, or that's not what I'm looking at. It has to be more sustainable than that. We have embarked on a program where, for the first time, it was Team Jamaica Bickle who first brought officials of Penn Relays to Jamaica. And we've been doing it now, building relationships, sensitizing them, letting them understand how champs operate. We now have an executive vice president at the University of Pennsylvania, Mr. Scott Ward, who has a clear understanding as to what we're all about. Obviously, we can't make all changes overnight. One of the things we're looking at is how we infuse our culture musically into the Penn Relays. We're working on that because, music is a significant aspect of our existence, You can't have a big thing going on music now play. Even at a week, there's music. So why can't there be music at an athletic event? And he has seen how that has worked here in Jamaica. We're working on that. My hope is that we may have like a taste of it this year. I don't know. We were trying to work out the technicalities. All right. The other situation is how Penn Relays sensitize and understand. The University of Pennsylvania gives academic scholarships, not sports scholarships. One of the challenges amongst our sports people is that they are not as academically astute to engage those scholarships as they should. But we have other students back in Jamaica who can avail themselves of that. So they at least open doors. Partnerships, the opportunities for the University of Pennsylvania to look at some of the sports apparatus we have. Those are the things we're working on. And of course, the continued opportunity from the economic side, Jampro, Tourist Board, and tourist boards around the Caribbean, the stock exchange, and others who want to showcase their products and their services. But they have to do it in a collective space to maximize on their investment. And I think those are the way forward. Not about me selling jerk chicken and say, because that don't happen. We can have entities that have the wherewithal to come in and do that. Get ourselves organized and do that. Because you're not going to rent a space for $1,000 and then expect to make $20,000. No, the space costs you $20,000. You might make only $1,000. That's how it is. And so, one of the things that I quickly want to say though is that as an organization, Felicia, we do not go out there and encourage teams to come to the Penn Relays. That's a decision by schools. They decide to come to the Penn Relays, we accord ourselves to facilitate them while they're here to help to defray their expenses. So that's where we're at. So we're not out there championing the cause of Penn Relays. We're championing the cause of Team Jamaica Bickle and the teams in the Caribbean at the Penn Relays.
And what about the Olympians who have passed through Team Jamaica Bickle? Tell us a little bit about those.
So you have the Usain Bolts of the world, and you also have the Kirani Jameses of the world. You have several athletes from Trinidad, Bahamas that have all come through, and at some point I would stop by and get a patty or eat some rice and peas and oxtail or fish, whatever we have. Some of our bickle, past through and have some of our bickle. The Sharika Jacksons of the world, the Shelly Ann Frasers, they've all passed through. And in fact, one of the good things we have here is that the world reigning 60 meters indoor champion, Miss Alred, was actually schooled in Jamaica at St. Catherine, came to the Penn Relays representing a Jamaican school, and she's from St. Lucia.
Wow.
You see? And the same thing goes for several other athletes, because we have several Caribbean athletes that are in the school system in Jamaica, and many would have gone on to represent their respective countries. And so we've had a good pass through of these athletes, but our primary emphasis has always been on the amateurs, the athletes who are still in high school, because that's the foundation, and we have seen many who would have passed through our system here and would have gone on to become champions. And then we have another stream of interest here, Felicia, and that would be Jamaican trained coaches who are now coaching not only in other Caribbean islands, but in NCAAs in several colleges throughout the United States. That's also another contribution to the whole athletic scene, and we would have some contribution to that avenue as well.
So the business of sports is real for Team Jamaica Bickle.
It is, because it is tied into the welfare of our athletes. If you're gonna talk about the business of sports, the welfare of our athletes has to be a key component, because sports can't happen without them. Yeah. And we have to make sure that we invest in them, have the right infrastructure. And that's why Team Jamaica Bickle has a strategic relationship with the GC Foster College of Sports and Physical Education. For the past near 20 years, we have funded them and will continue to help to develop other opportunities and invest in their infrastructure. And that's why now, as you mentioned about funding, we now branching out into relationship with foundations. And one that I'd like to mention is the Second Round Foundation. And the Second Round Foundation is Jalen Brunson, who is the next point guard. That's his foundation. We now have a strategic alliance with them, and we hope to build on that as we look towards external source of funding.
That is amazing. So what is it that you're looking at for the next 30 years?
30 years? I'm looking to be in the stand looking at other people doing this. We're at a point now where we have succession management in place. I'm looking now to be in the stand actually and provide support from a different perspective. It is now at a stage where it calls for people with more energy and ideas in the next century. We're still retro. We still don't have a problem sweeping the floors, but I know that with this new age in technology, they'll find robots to do that. AI will help them with that. But it's welcoming a new fresh ideas. We're in a transitional mode to some extent. And we have to be, because one thing is that the athletes raise their game every year. We have to keep up. Yeah. We have to raise our bar. And that's why last year, for the first time, Felicia, every athlete that gets off a plane and land in Philadelphia that is under our management is insured until we get back on that plane and go back home. Wow. Because again, it's the welfare of the athlete. And we have seen athletes will have injuries, and we have to be prepared to have the necessities in place to accommodate that. And so we'll continue to find new methodologies and new ways of stepping up our game.
And so Irwin, talk to us a little bit about the team this is just incredible hard work. It's so many aspects that you've touched on. How do you get this all done with a team of people and very little money?
Well, you see, I go back again, it's a labor of love. And it is not your regular not-for-profit, it's not your regular organization. A lot of it, you have to be thinking while you're running, walking and talking, and thinking and making decisions. I've been privileged to work with some good people. We don't have a lot of expertise. We have a need for certain situations. I've had good people pass through, but I also understand they have their families too. It's for people like myself who are what do you call it now? Have no little picnic in my yard for go feed and all that stuff. It's not for the young person who's on the upward trajectory, because it takes a lot of time. You cannot do this thing part-time, in essence, in certain aspect of leadership. You have to recognize and avail yourselves at all times. For me, it's a passion. It's a labor of love that is instilled with a lot of passion. There are a few of us like that, and I work them hard, because that's just how it goes. If you're gonna come inside this room and you're Team Jamaica Bickle, if there's water on the floor, you better go find a mop and mop it up. I don't want the athlete come and slip and fall. That's how we think. We're not. So I've always said, and I think you have experiences too, is that once you come to the tent, you leave all that pretentiousness and all that at the outside of the tent. Inside the tent, the most important person are the athletes. So respect due to Felicia, the publisher of ICN group of companies and the CEO. But once she comes inside, she's a volunteer, and it's a significant position too, by the way, because at the end of the day, in speaking to the folks I work with, I always ask them, how do you feel when you go home? When you look back, and there's a sense of pride. There's a sense of, wow, I've been involved. I was looking recently at Felicia, some pictures, and the year elude me now. The first year Usain Bolt came to the Penn Relays, we actually honored him. And Dr. Basil Brand, I remember we're at the SDA church in South Philadelphia, said that this man, Usain Bolt, is going to become a phenom. Right there. I was looking at pictures this past couple of days ago, and it just brought back, and so yes, do we have many athletes who jump on board and say, no, we don't, but we don't do that for that reason. We do it for opportunity, because at the end of the day, Felicia, it's less than 1% of these athletes who become world champion or Olympians. True. It's about 99.9% who use this as an opportunity to get themselves to the next level, emancipate themselves, and buy them their mother house. And that's
so Irwin, tell us, how can people contribute this year and where? Okay,
our website, teamjamaicabickle.org. We do have a Give Lively platform there that allows you to start even your own campaign. You can do it for a country. You can do it for a school. You can do it for Team Jamaica Bickle, because at the end of the day, it goes into that pot that helps all the athletes. So it's teamjamaicabickle.org, and you'll see our Give Lively platform there that allows you for that. And for those in the tri-state area, Felicia, we have our Labor of Love lunch and gala. And of course, Felicia, I've already instructed you to get your sneakers up, because this year it is gowns, tuxedo, and sneakers. So
wow.
So I know that for many of you who constantly find yourselves in the gym, the sneaker is a good fit to have your gown on or your cocktail dress. It will go well. And as you do that, you're doing it for a good cause to ensure the winning tradition continues, and that is supporting our athletes.
And people can get tickets also on the website.
Yeah, they can do that, as well as make a contribution. And the contribution, and again, the important thing is that we don't have any administrative staff to pay. So it's 100% of your money goes to the athletes. We are totally 100% volunteer, and hopefully one day we'll have somebody who can run this thing 24/7 to maximize. Yep. But as it is right now, it's the full 100 goes there. And
just one other question, Irwin, just in the short time that we have. If there are other younger people who are coming up behind us, they want to follow in your footsteps, they want to get involved, they want to see, what would your inspiration be, or your words of advice
we have internships. We don't have it formalized, but there's opportunity for internships, and we encourage that. And as a matter of fact, we've seen it work. We have seen it work. One particular person that stands out for me right now is Daniel Cope, an athlete from Petersfield in Jamaica, an ugly duckling, and now he is going to be graduating from Clemson after setting all the records there in throws. All right, and graduating with a degree, and his mother and sister is coming up, and he has always volunteered with us, and as a student ambassador, encouraging young people. It is good. It is good on your resume, young people. And the good thing with this is that you get to network with not only athletes, but other people that comes into the space. It's a great networking platform and allows you entertainment while you're being, I would say edutainment. You're being educated and you're being entertained, and you get to meet some very interesting people. And I think that, it's very opportunistic. And like I said, we encourage that. Because the spirit of volunteerism is the backbone of our existence. Volunteerism is alive and well through Team Jamaica Bickle.
Absolutely. And Irwin, give us the website once more.
teamjamaicabickle.org. And Bickle is spelled BICKLE. bickle. It's a vernacular in Jamaica for food. They get some bickle. You know, we always give it some bickle. Once it comes to Team Jamaica Bickle, you'll get some good food. And I must say, Felicia, that we no longer operate from under tent. We operate in the palestra. And the palestra is the University of Pennsylvania's basketball arena. So it tells you another situation when we talk about what is it we work with Penn, for them to facilitate us in that space is also telling.
Absolutely, Irwin. Well, thank you so much. That's all the time we have for this month's edition of the Hard to Beat podcast. I'm your host, Felicia Prasad, wishing you, as usual, love, light, and abundance.
And thank you very much. And I see you're in the colors, so see you at Penn.
Absolutely.